The fear happens in the land of the unknown. And we have to bring clarity where there is no clarity. Some people cannot work in a fluid environment. So we have to create as much structure as we can. And with that structure, builds the trust. That's why we have to be there to support until we get to the place of stabilizing what that's going to look like in order to continue to move forward.
Before you dive into today's episode, we have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy what we do here at NOUVA, please take a second of your time to hit the follow or subscribe button in the app you're listening. It might seem like a small thing, but it what keeps us bringing you amazing guests and quality content every month. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Now, let's get started.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us in NOUVA Podcast. And I have to make a very small introduction for you to understand who we have here as our host. So, every company has a strategy deck. Every leader team has sat through the demo, of course. And yet, the majority of AI implementations are a fail. So, not because the technology is bad or doesn't work, but because the organization perhaps wasn't built for the technology. So the real question, whether your company can afford AI or not, is the real one is whether your people, your organization, your processes, your culture are actually ready to afford and to be with that AI implementation, like grab it as you are, as is part of you, and to deploy it. However, many organizations, they need this consultancy and they need to understand why. So, our guest today has spent her career exactly at this gap between AI implementation and organizations, why they don't work. So she has led global teams, built enablement programs from scratch, guide AI adoptions across corporate and institutional environments, of course, and help organizations turn strategy into something that actually works for them. So her name is Christina Sadler, and I am Stephanie. This is NOUVA Podcast. Christina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie.
Christina, I'm very happy and to talk about this because many organizations, bigger and small and medium, they don't understand why. So we've been looking forward to this conversation deeply because, I mean, you work in this space and you have this experience. So can you please give us a quick overview, first, of who you are as a person, as a professional, and as a professional leader in the AI adoption, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, I came into AI an unusual pathway, and my background isn't in software engineering. So I've been in operations, customer experience, enablement, which included training and knowledge management, and organizational transformation. And for nearly 2 decades, I've led large teams through change, whether that was scaling retail operations, building global training organizations, and supporting customer experience transformations, or implementing new technologies across distributed workforces. And when generative AI emerged, I realized very quickly that the technology wasn't going to be the hardest part. The hardest part will be helping people understand how to integrate AI into the way they work, make decisions, and deliver value. So that led me into AI enablement and adoption work, where I focused on helping organizations bridge the gap between AI capability and human behavior. Today, my work centers on AI governance, workforce readiness, knowledge management, and helping institutions adopt AI in a way that's responsible, sustainable, and actually useful.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, your work at that intersection of AI strategy and actual implementation, and those two things are very, very, very different. So most organizations, Christina, today have some version of an AI roadmap, perhaps, but there's a massive gap between a strategy and having an organization that can execute it. So from your sit and from your perspective, what is the most common reason AI initially stall? Not because of technology, but because of what's happening inside the organization. I'm telling you this because many companies, at least here in Latin America, they want it. But when they deploy it, there's this unknown gap that they don't know why it's not working. And I have spent so many interviews with that. Can you give us a take on that, on the insights?
Yes. So the most common reason, AI initiatives stall is that organizations underestimate the human side of transformation. So human insight first, technology is second. And many organizations think they're launching an AI initiative, but in reality, we're launching a change management initiative disguised as technology project. And I want to emphasize change management.
Yes.
It is so important because we have to get people emotionally prepared for the technology. And the technology often works exactly as intended, but what breaks it down is clarity around ownership, decision making, communication, and expectations of that technology. And different departments have different concerns. So legal is worried about risk. IT is worried about security. Our employees are worried about relevance. It's just going to take my job away. Leadership is focused on the outcomes of having this technology, and nobody creates alignment across these groups or functionalities. The initiative slows down before the technology ever has a chance to succeed. And most stalled AI projects are not technology failures. It's their alignment failures. And as I like to coin it, technology and in this industry, it is evergreen environment. And we all have to get that mindset. It is not a light switch. And a lot of people think AI is a light switch or a button, but it's not. It's literally changing as we're speaking, Stephanie. And that's how we prepare our people for it in our organizations.
Yeah, that's so true. I think the culture, of course, that's so true. I mean, you were talking about this operational and human infrastructure and how CEOs from the top, they say, okay, I really want the tool. And they just say to the management people, okay, just grab a provider, see me how much it is, how much I want to invest in the tool, the license integration, everything. But the people down you, they are like, oh, they will take my job, or they are like an obstacle for the provider. Why is that, Christina? How we can make those two things work together so people don't feel afraid that they will take your job, and that the organization can educate them for that?
Yes. So I think most importantly is that we recognize, what are we trying to solve with the technology? And if we don't know what we're solving, then we're just deploying technology. And then 6 months later, we discover adoption is low, usage is inconsistent, employees are creating their own workflows that are not a part of the technology deployment or implementation plan, or they're not even using it, and leadership can't clearly measure business impact. So everybody is just moving in their own way, but not moving towards the North Star into which we deploy this technology. And what they saved in planning time, now we're losing rework. Now we're having duplicated work and less redundancy that is supporting the business. And then you have shadow AI usage, governance concerns, inconsistent outputs, growing skepticism from employees who expected bigger results. And the irony is that organizations often blame the technology when the real issue was that nobody built the operational foundation. We cannot move and have AI at the forefront if we don't have the foundation in which to move forward within it. And then within that, that builds long-term adoption and sustainability. And that's where the gaps are within that.
Yeah, that's so true. At the beginning, you said you were an AI enthusiast, and your background is different from that, and that's interesting because you have a different perspective, like a 360 perspective of different things. So I'm just curious before so our audience can understand more you better. So where you are now, you are operational in the corporate world, or how was it, the transition?
So, yes, great question, Stephanie. So, like I shared earlier, I started out in retail right out of college, in telecommunications, and then I transitioned over to an outsourcing SaaS company, and then it transitioned over into a tech AI company. So my journey went from operations and now into AI enablement. So I was in that capacity, for 6 years and leveraging my operator brain as well as leveraging my people side and building systems. I was able to evolve outside of learning at the same time, but ensure that my people understood how to also evolve, because a lot of people, we get technology, but no one's evolving with the technology. Everybody wants to stay where they were before the technology happens, and you can't grow and stabilize a organization in moving in that light. So I transitioned from corporate into higher ed. So now I'm in higher education, implementing the same fundamentals, but in a different way, because now I'm working with faculty, administrative, and students. So it's the same principles, but just a different approach.
Yeah, of course. That's so true. So our people can understand your background. So you also have like your personal consultancies, advisories for our organization. And that's our next question for the people who are in this constant and fast moving companies that every day leadership decides to adopt AI and they want to top it down. So when someone for a company wants to adopt AI, what is the first thing you do when the CEO or a manager say, Christina, I want to adopt AI, but I have my problem is logistics, for example, and I want an AI in logistics to have management of everything, but you don't know what is everything. So how do you walk through exactly that? And how do you understand the client to decipher all these hieroglyphics of what the client wants?
Yes, great question. I'm experiencing that right now in real life. So well, what is the gap within logistics? Because that's very broad. So, between capability and operational readiness. And does the organization know what AI can do? Because sometimes we may think AI is the solution, but it might be a different solution that we need to take in consideration. And within that, who owns that decision of is it AI or is it a different solution, and how successful will be measured and what risks are acceptable within that. But the first thing I always do is listen. You have to build trust. And without trust, no one is going to actively listen and respond in the way in which the organization, the manager, leadership, CEO wants them to respond, because we are introducing new tools and we need our people to understand how they can leverage those tools to solve whatever gap or problems that they are facing, and understanding the workflows that they are having friction for, and truly prescriptively solving that problem with AI or a different solution. And once we understand the current state, we can begin to build structure around governance, adoption, training, and measurement. And keep in mind, people lead AI. AI does not lead people. So from there, it's got to be that trust. We have to listen to what's actually going on and not lean into our own understanding of what we think is happening because it may not be happening the way our brain is computing it.
That's so true. That's so true. While you were talking about trust and having this conversation, deep human conversation, one-to-one with the managers, for how do you get, when you get to a company, how do you advise them to choose the correct provider? They have to do that certifications, GDPR. What is your first 3 must-have that the provider has to have for build trust?
So to build that trust, you need to understand who are your stakeholders, who are the decision makers, who are those stakeholders, and start building the relationships from there, and then just branch out. Who is touching this technology? Is it just touching a department specifically? Is it touching the whole entire institution and organization? And then from there, what I am currently doing is understanding what policies are in place, what are the security certifications that are in place, and how are we navigating third-party vendors? What risk or tiers do we have outlined for sensitive information? And what those processes look like internally. And because that's the only way I can guide and build. I need to know what's existing. Do we need to recreate, or are we building from scratch? And then, because I don't believe in duplicating, I don't believe in taking work that's already been established. That's another key point, because there are groups or one person or whomever who has built because they saw a need, they saw a gap, and they were trying to fill a gap before a organized process came into play. So I also want to honor that work because that also builds that trust at the same time. So just being aware, even leveraging emotional intelligence, because you have to. And I always say sometimes you have to use your Jedi thinking cap to really get people where you want them to be, but meet them where they're at is really important.
That's so true. I think that's because I am asking you this because we are in the Americas, and the Americas are a different culture from Europe and Asia. So in here we have fear of the people, especially the general, the chief AI, the chief technology officers who are in the IT team. They're like, don't touch my core, don't touch anything, don't touch, please, please don't touch it. Leave it like this. How that is another obstacle for providers, AI providers. How do you build and how do you approach to them and see, hey, don't worry, we can work outside your core if you don't want to touch anything. We have our certifications and everything. But still, the client has doubts. And especially not the client, perhaps the people, the managers, the IT. Yeah. They have these doubts. What's your take on that?
Yes. I see that currently in my current organization and even in my previous organization. That's why documentation and governance is so important, because you do work cross-functionally, and listening and building that trust, it all flows together, and having that feedback loop. We can't have fragmented information. We can't work in silos when we are deploying and implementing new technology that is evolving every day. And especially when it's augmented technology where we have humans involved in it. So, you have to keep both of those mindsets in play. But just from my experience, when you take that time, walk people through the steps in which the process is going to look like, and let them know, hey, I'm not trying to come over here and take over, or I'm not saying that you're not the smartest person in the room and I'm the smartest person in the room, because that's where the fear happens in the land of the unknown. And we have to bring clarity where there is no clarity, because some people cannot work in a fluid environment. So we have to create as much structure as we can. And with that structure builds the trust, and just walking people through the steps outside of like, here you go, or or you assume that they know how this is going to work. No, we don't know. That's why we have to be there to support until we get to the place of stabilizing what that's going to look like in order to continue to move forward.
And that governance of data and trust is built. Do you think 1 year, 6 months to 1 year will take for a client to build the trust?
Yes. I do believe that, especially if we're entering where there is no governance, there is no knowledge, and we're building from scratch. To build towards sustainability in this realm, it will take 6 months to a year, because now you're having to run pilot programs. You need use cases. People need to see it in order to be institutionalized across an enterprise or an organization. You're not going to launch technology and just be like, okay, everybody's on board, everybody knows what to do, we have everything aligned. No, because everybody is in different parts of the spectrum. So yes, that is a true reality. 6 months to a year is not, I mean, we can deploy in 4 weeks AI, but that doesn't mean the adoption, that doesn't mean we're going to see the impact financially or even operationally. So we have to ensure that we do it ethically and we do it strategically. And that's why change management is at the top. Outside of trust, change management is so important in that facet.
That's so true. How do you, your projections for 2027? We are at 6 months. I can't believe that we are almost in June
I know.
2026. But your projections for 2027, Christina, for companies who are adopting today AI and for companies that will adopt it next year, what is your projections for those companies?
Yes. So AI agents, I think, is probably at the forefront, and how to leverage that to automate and collaborate across the organization just to break up those silos. And I'm learning in my current position, and what I'm working on now is that everybody is touching everything, but there's not a collaborative effort for us to be moving in the same direction. So I think, well, not think, I know leveraging our AI agents, GPTs, anything that's going to automate a process and remove those low hanging fruit, I think that's going to become more evident as we transition into 2027. Outside of right now, it's like, oh, I want to touch every AI tool and I'm going to assume it's going to save my life. I think it's going to be more strategic movement for organizations, and knowing what tools are going to benefit the better good, and looking at it from a financial standpoint, because some people may not look at it from financially. It can drive revenue into a business, but it can also cost a business if we're not leveraging our AI efficiently and effectively. So that's where I see it going. And most importantly, in higher ed, it is strengthening the structure and the foundation compared to in corporate, where there is some foundation there, and we're just evolving that foundation. But from a higher ed perspective, the foundation is wobbly, and it's more of, I just want to play, I just want to experience, and now we're just adding the governance. So
That's
yes.
true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
For the providers who are also some of our audiences are providers of AI, what will
Mm-hmm.
be like your hope and faith for those providers who are, of course, the curves are 6 months to 1 year, perhaps almost
Yes.
1 year and a half. For those
Mm-hmm.
providers who are involved in these AI adoptions, then they want to have clients, good clients, and clients that will
Mm-hmm.
help them to build both of them, like a win-win. What would you say to those providers?
Yes. For providers, especially when the technology is just improving and there are advancements to what we can do, I think it's very critical that they support the organizations who are, buying into the technology from those vendors and providers. Be present, because like I was sharing, trust is so important on both sides of the road, not just internal trust, but also with the vendors that is supporting those organizations. And teach, don't overwhelm. Share the tech that is beneficial to that organization outside of what you're launching overall as an organization, but what is going to be beneficial for this institution or for this enterprise, and based off of their needs. Because some organizations come in and just slam it all on you, and those solutions may not be for them, and then it becomes overwhelming, and then that develops the fear and the resistance, and then they come back and say, oh, I don't want that at all because I don't think it's going to benefit me. So truly listen to what your customer needs and what their organization's strategic goals are. Even look at the community that they're serving. I think that's important too,
Yeah.
because some organizations have customers. So now we need to empower those customers to also engage in the AI, because that's within our organization. That's making us more efficient. That's driving up our revenue, is lowering costs. So, we have to think about it holistically, not just in, I'm just solving this one particular problem. We got to look at it from a systemic situation, because that one little thing is impacting so many other parts of a business.
That's so true. Wow, you have opened up our minds, especially for me, and also I think the community as well. All your insights are really refreshing. And before I let you go, I want to ask you, Christina, one last question.
Yes.
What uh what is the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, mm, the best advice I've ever received is, do not rush the process because you think the world wants it today. When you are building institutional, systemic processes, workflows, governance, that takes time. It is not a light switch, it's not a button. And we need to honor that, because you don't want to build something that's going to break tomorrow. And then you're starting back over again. And then we're losing time. You're spending more money. You're losing revenue. It's just a ripple effect. So take your time, communicate that, um, create a plan, implementation plan, track your progress as you're going. I do that for myself to know, okay, I am making moves, because when we're in this space, it's not always instant gratification. The gratification doesn't come into, like you said, Stephanie, 6 months or to a year. So, count those wins, give yourself grace, but don't rush the process,
Yeah.
because when you rush it, it's gonna fall, it's gonna fail. So give yourself the capacity to win. And if it does fail, just start all over again, because you got the foundation in which you're building off of.
That's so true. Amen. That's so true. That's so true. Well, I hope everybody here have listened, not just here, listen to all those words, because every word you say is so true. And also, we are living in a world that is so fast. Everything is so fast. Our new generation, they want it so fast as well.
Yes.
So we need to breathe and to slow down, because I think that's true. You're right. When you build something very slow, it will get so strong as a tree. All the branches will be so strong, and you will make it a huge tree then. But it takes time. It takes time.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Christina, thank you so much for showing us what it looks like in between this gap of adopting and then into the practice of AI. And I hope it won't be the last time we meet each other. And thank you so much. And for the people from Honduras, Christina knows a little bit of Honduras, and that's so cool for our community on Hondurans. So that's amazing as well. So, well, Christina, thank you. I am Stephanie, and this is NOUVA Podcast. See you in the next episode. Thank you so much, Christina.
You're welcome.
We close this chapter, but now there's a next step to do, applying it to your life. Knowledge that isn't used is just noise. Don't live here with a notebook full of ideas. Live here with a plan to change one thing in your routine tomorrow. Ask yourself, from everything we discussed here today, what idea resonated with me enough to put into practice? Don't wait for the future. Create it today. This is NOUVA Podcast. See you in the next episode.